What's up everyone, this is Mike with Confused IT. In this video I wanted to go over the installation process for installing Windows Server 2022 in this case. The Windows installation process hasn't changed much, if at all, in the last, I don't even know how many years at this point, but it's looked the same for a very long time. So if you've installed Windows Server before, there's not really any surprises here, but I just wanted to go over it so people that maybe haven't seen it before can just see what it looks like. This is the first screen you'll see after booting up to your installation media. In this video, I'm not going to cover how to make the installation media, but there's a utility. There's plenty of ways out there that are pretty easy. We have a way in our knowledge base at kb.confused.it.org. There's also some other YouTube videos that we have that will go over the process for making bootable media. So in this case, I just mounted an ISO to a virtual machine, and so this is a virtual machine that booted up to the installation media ISO. So this is the first screen you'll see, and here we're going to pick a language, time and currency format, and your keyboard layout or input method. So for me, this all matches up to what I need, so I'm going to go ahead and hit next, and now we're going to hit install now. Okay, so here it asks for a license key. You could enter in your license key now. I typically hit the I don't have a product key option. I'll just rather add it in later, because right now you can't copy and paste. At least usually you can't unless you have a way of doing that, but not. I don't have currently a way of doing that. So basically, what I'll usually do is I'll just hit I don't have a product key. It'll let you go forward with the installation, and then once you have RDP access, remote control, or whatever, you usually can choose to just copy and paste your product key, and it makes your life a little bit easier down the road. So I'm going to hit I don't have a product key, and we'll get these options to install. If you did put a product key in, I think it limits this list of what options you have available to you based on what your license key supports. So one thing to keep in mind is when you pick a version to install, pick the version that you have licensing for. Changing it later is possible usually, but it can be a little bit of a pain. So in this case, I have data center keys for Windows Server 2022. In this also here, you're probably going to want to choose the one with desktop experience. The difference between desktop experience and not having desktop experience is basically that if you're used to using any type of Windows device or computer, then you're going to want the desktop experience. The non-desktop experience is just basically a terminal window, a PowerShell window, or a command prompt window. I think it's PowerShell in the newer versions of Windows, but yeah, it's just that window. There's no start. There's no taskbar. There's no start button. None of that stuff. So definitely would recommend the desktop experience for those that aren't well versed in setting up Windows Server with PowerShell or anything like that. So, and we've also found that if you use applications that kind of need a UI or a desktop environment, like things like antivirus, we found some antiviruses have a little bit of trouble working properly on systems that only have like a PowerShell window to open with, and it can make troubleshooting a little bit harder. So yeah, and for most cases, desktop experience is great. If it's something really simple, like a domain controller you're setting up or something along those lines, then just the standard, the non-desktop experience could be fine. And sometimes you could even, what some people will do is they'll turn on desktop experience now, and then once they set up their domain controller, they'll remove it to save resources, which is one thing that you could do. And then it'll operate like sort of a headless mode type of thing, where you just have a PowerShell window, and you can make changes that way. And yeah, those are a couple different scenarios, but the easiest thing that I'm going to go with here is installing this desktop experience option. And here I'm just going to accept the license terms. Obviously, you feel free to read them, but in order to move forward with this, we have to accept those and hit next. And then here we're going to have an option to upgrade an existing install or a custom install. I'm only going to go over the custom install in this case. Yeah, if you had Windows Server already on here, you can upgrade from one version to the next, and it'll sort of save some of your information in the process. But yeah, I'm just going to go with the plain install. So if you don't see your disk here, if you're installing on something that maybe is like a NVMe or some sort of weird storage, you can hit load driver If you had like a flash drive plugged in or something like that, you could load a driver in here, and that, the driver for the disk or the storage controller, and that might help you see some missing options that you might, be looking for. Another tip is if you have a drive in here and the drive already has something on it, like another Windows install or just anything else, you can hit the delete button here, and it'll let you delete that whole disk. So like anything on it, the volumes, partitions, it'll just wipe it out, and then you'll have a clean disk. You just hit next here, and it'll do all the partitioning for you when it installs the OS, which is going to do now. This is a pretty straightforward thing, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the video here, but just basically wait for this to run through. When it's done, it'll just reboot on its own and boot up into the next part of the install. Alright, so the VM went ahead and rebooted. This is the typical next window you're going to see. That is for setting up your administrator password. This is your built-in administrator, so definitely don't want to lose this password. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and I'll just make a quick password. And we'll hit finish. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I'm going to go ahead and hit Control-Delete and just do a first-time login here. But there is no other settings. If you're used to installing Windows 10 or stuff like that, there's usually a slew of settings on the out-of-box experience, like location tracking, advertising IDs, all that kind of stuff that it asks you, Cortana. In this case, there's really nothing that comes up with Windows Server, thankfully. You're just going to get this pop up on, I think this came out with 2019 servers, maybe 2016 had it too, but this Windows Admin Center that they've been pushing for a way to manage multiple servers from a browser. I'm just going to go ahead and close that. Yeah, from here I would recommend, if you're running a VM, you could install VMware Tools, you could static the IP address for the server, you can give the server a host name, make sure your date and time is correct, put in your license key. What else would you do on here? Join to a domain if you have a domain, configure your roles and features, build a domain if you don't have one. Let's see, set your power settings from whatever it is. I think it defaults to balance. You can set it to, high performance, stuff like that. Yeah, so this is pretty much everything. There's, a lot more we could do now that we have the OS installed. That's for a different video. Hopefully this video on how to install Windows Server 2022 is helpful to you, and I will see you in the next one. Thank you for watching this video. Please like and subscribe. Our website has some resources that you might find useful as well. Confused IT is a non-for-profit organization ran by IT professionals. Our mission is to make IT knowledge more accessible and easier to digest. Thanks for watching.